Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Drewberry, and I got 4 Datamine cards for you here today that I wanted to talk about because I think there's some of the weaker Datamine cards that we have available, and I want to, see some thoughts, maybe some combos that you guys can think of that would work really well with these cards that I'm missing. So the first one I have here is Random. Random is a 4/0 on reveal. Set this card's power equal to the power of a random card in your deck. Okay, so there is a strong element of random and theme in this card, which I quite enjoy, but it's not entirely random, is it? Because when you build your deck, it's only 12 cards and you get to choose what you put in there. And if you only put in high power cards, then random's got a good chance of being high power, right? I think the problem that I have with that deck, though, is that then, like, when are you playing those cards? Like, if they're all a bunch of 6-drops, maybe you get that one 6-drop and you get one random roll, and that's good enough. Maybe the one card you add in there is Sunspot, and maybe that can help it out enough, feeding off of that unspent energy until you get your random roll, and then you go for that 6-drop. Maybe that works. Some of the synergistic cards I thought of are like America Chavez, right? She's always going to be the deck until turn 6, so that you're probably playing random before turn 6. Kind of sets up a nice scenario, right? You can probably hit America Chavez, you get 9 power. That's a good value snipe for random, right? But then the dream scenario is Infinite. That 20 power Infinite, of course, we always want to roll the Infinite off of our Jubilee, our Lockjaw rolls. Well, now you got random rolls as well to include in there, which would be great. It's a 420, of course. That's the perfect stat line, of course, right? Okay, well, what about another combo in Absorbing Man? Because if you have a lot of those high power cards in your deck, well, then you could random, then Absorbing Man, then play one of those, right? Your 4, 5, and 6 turns, and that's pretty strong amounts of power. Now, very weak too, of course, Shang-Chi, so you got to watch out for that. But overall, I don't know. I'm giving him 2 stars. As you can see, I'm just giving him 2 stars because I just think there's just too much randomness. Maybe not enough to build a proper deck to make it work. I feel like in those decks, you end up running kind of split. You run some of the Wasp or the Thanos with the stones and stuff like that. You have to have the weaker stuff to throw into the, into the Lockjaw rotations. So then it gets a little bit sticky. Sometimes there's those Jubilee decks though that just run a bunch of high power stuff, and maybe this works with that. But it doesn't even work with some cards, even Odin would be kind of maybe, and then Dr. Doom would be kind of meh. You don't get the on reveal of those cards. That's why Jubilee does so well, right? She can pull Dr. Doom, get his on reveal, and then that's incredible power. This is just copying the power. It's like a Taskmaster, but less control, but you don't have to spend the energy to play the card beforehand. So I don't know. I just feel like it doesn't quite get there. It doesn't quite work. Maybe it's pretty fun for those high rolls, but not quite there. By the way, look at all these variants, dude. This card has 6 or 7 variants. I picked these cards because they have a lot of variants, and not just because I want to show them off. They're incredible artists and making awesome art for this game, but also because I find historically, if a card has a lot of variants in the Datamine pool, there's a good chance, it's a bit of a tell that it might come soon. So I would expect to see Random, I don't know, in the next 2-3 months as an upcoming new card to Marvel Snap. When it's got this many variants and it's got a bunch of the staples like a Pixel, a Chibi, all those kind of variants, a Dan Hip, it's coming soon. And next up we have Lady Deathstrike, a 6/4 on reveal. Destroy the enemy card with the highest power at this location. I'm giving Lady Deathstrike 3 stars. Now, of course, you're looking at this and being like, bruh, what is this? A 6-cost Shang-Chi? Why would I run this? It's even got a non-reveal, so who cares? And et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, you're right. It does a very similar effect, which is why I ended up giving it 3 stars. I think under normal circumstances, if Shang-Chi did not exist, this would be busted, right? This would be looking so good. But here's the most important thing, if you can take anything away from what I'm about to say about this card, is that this will destroy the highest power card. And if that highest power card happens to have 8 or less that Shang-Chi cannot destroy, Lady Deathstrike can. Do you ever lose those locations, where it's I don't know, it's a bunch of Vision, Captain Marvel, et cetera, it's good power stuff, but it's not quite there. It's not at that range where you can snipe them with the Shang-Chi, so you just end up losing outright, and they get to 20 power sometimes because they got those 4 really strong cards. Well, Lady Deathstrike's going to take at least 1 out, and on that final and crucial turn, which is fantastic, but she herself is only 4 power, so maybe not the swing you needed. And then you better be winning another location because she's not going to do it for you, right? You have to lock that one in and then hope that they don't have Cosmo or armor, and then you play Lady Deathstrike to get the destroy. So lots of conditions need to be met in this kind of environment where we do see lots of Cosmo, where we do see lots of armor. It would be very difficult to pull this off successfully. But I think there's some synergies here that are pretty fun. And that could make a big swing. So let's say we cheated out Lady Deathstrike, right? I'm just going to start with this one. And we play her early. We destroy something. Huzzah, that's fantastic. But then on turn 6, we're going to play our Zola, who's going to destroy our copier at the other 2 locations to get another 2 destroys on the essentially what was the 3 most important cards our opponent played. So that's pretty good. That's great value right there. And then we can probably make a pretty good swing to win the game, right? And then what if we also cheated out Null early? Null's going to get all that power from your opponent's highest power cards. So we're feeding off of destroying their cards. Now, of course, this is still inherently a problem because they're all 6, you know, unless we got Limbo out there or we got Wave cheating them out or something like that. We're going to have a hard time pulling off these combos consistently. Okay, but what about another one in Wong, right? Or even Absorbing Man or Odin or any of these kind of things. But I thought Wong was the easiest to set up. You play Wong, you play Lady Deathstrike, you destroy 2 of their highest power cards at that location. Now, that might be a win more con, you know, because you already destroyed the highest power thing. Do you really need to destroy 2? Maybe not. But it's a lot of power off the board regardless, right? And again, if you can win another locations through some means, then this ends up being a lot easier. Also pretty fantastic in any of those situations where it's a one locate, like Space Throne or something like that, or like locations are already kind of full because of a bunch of tokens or whatever, and you know your opponent can only really play 1 card there, and then you can snipe it with Lady Deathstrike. Also kind of works well with Ghost, right? Because you don't want prio. You want your opponent to have prio so that your Lady Deathstrike can get destroyed, destroy user ability. She probably will get destroyed very frequently by Cosmo. Not even like literally destroyed as a card, but like absolutely wrecked in a Cosmo lane. That I'm just sure that would happen a bunch of times. But that's why I gave her 3 stars. Honestly, this could have been a 2-star card as well. It's like it's so counterable, and with Shang-Chi, I feel like you just end up running him a lot more because you can discount with Zabu. You can Sarah discounts like to play more things as well with him, and he effectively does the same thing except for a few niche scenarios. So I feel like they have to either give her some more power or change up Shang-Chi or change up some of the cards that exist right now in Marvel Snap for this one to kind of thrive. But there you go. It's got 3 cool variants. By the way, did you know this was a character in the first X-Men movie with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine and all that good stuff? And like, I had no idea that they fought in that movie. Like, I remember that movie fondly, but like, I did not know this character translated to that character. I thought that was pretty funny. All right, now we have Legion, a 5/4 on reveal. Change other locations into this location. Okay, this card, first of all, is really fascinating, but I have some concerns, which is why I'm giving Legion only 2 stars, okay? But here's an interesting combo that I want to talk about right off the bat, because we talked about this in our Marvel Snap news video a few weeks ago, where if you use Rhino, right, and you turned our location into ruins, and then you use Legion at the ruins location, and it made all the locations ruins, all of a sudden, locations are not really essentially playing a factor into your game, which I thought was pretty neat. Now they probably already triggered, had effects, whatever. This really only affects those that are consistent out there, which is where Snow Guard becomes a great option, right? Because Snow Guard, the card that just came out, can turn into a hawk, which will either ignore all of the locations, right? So maybe you want to turn it into a location that you can ignore with your hawk, or you turn it into a location where your bear can actually find value and trigger it again. Sadly, the locations that a bear can trigger are really pathetic. There's really not a lot of good ones unless you're going for like a token build or like Hazmat to give negative power, because it does a lot of spawning of stuff. So that's even trickier. So like a really good application and example is Onslaught Citadel. You have like Iron Man or something like that, or I don't know, you just have a bunch of ongoings in your deck with Legion, and then you turn all the locations into Onslaught Citadel, and you hope your opponent doesn't have ongoing effects, because again, this is reciprocal. This is going to help your opponent just as much as it's going to help you, unless you built your deck for it. But even if you built your deck for it, the locations are random. So the consistency here just falls right out. Like, I have a hard time being excited for this card, even though the effect is really fun. It would make for some incredibly fun moments. You are spending most of the time, you're turn 5 playing a 4 power card to make all the locations the same, which may or may not benefit you, which may or may not benefit your opponent, which may or may not do absolutely nothing, like turning all the locations into the ruins. I just thought that was kind of a neat example of one you could do, because all the cards that spawn locations don't really work with Legion right now. Like Limbo would just turn it all into Limbo, which I guess is the same thing as ruins, but you're gonna have a turn 7 anyways, so whatever. Maybe your opponent was really banking on a location, like the Nexus was up. Imagine that. And then you Legion and all of a sudden they're all Nexus. Oh my gosh, that'd be crazy, right? But I'd probably rather just get rid of the Nexus for a 2/3 on my Scarlet Witch, right? And that's where I'm like, shoot, basically any other location removal does Legion job, but like slightly better, a little bit more consistently, except for that odd time. I'm sure you guys can think of some crazy times with Legion, but for the most part, I feel like there's just whiffs. Truthfully, I could see them changing this card quite a bit before it is released. From the honestly, the ability almost seems like a placeholder for playtesting because like you wanted to just have a bunch of one location, or it's just really cool for the game. I mean, either or. And then the stat line could probably use a nudge. I feel like 5 is a heavy cost for only getting 4 power for this effect. So I would be on the look for this card to change. But for right now, yeah, he's only getting 2 stars. All right, and last up here we have Mirage, which I am presuming will probably be my most controversial star rating of this video, but I'm giving Mirage 1 star. Mirage is a 4/5. After you play this, disguise it as Mr. Fantastic. After the final turn, reveal it. So very reminiscent of Mysterio, right? He's going to lay out those illusions. You find out it's revealed at the end of the game which one is the real Mysterio, which ones are the illusions, okay? But this one just feels so weak to me, dude, because you're paying 4 for 5 power. That is all you are really doing. Yes, you are confusing your opponent. You're making them think that there's 2 power at other locations when really you got 5 at this one. So maybe their math is a little bit off and maybe that makes the difference. I hear you, but here's the thing about this card. Once it's released, there's a few things that are going to happen. One, nobody's going to trust Mr. Fantastic. You'll never look at that dude again the same. You just won't. You'll be like, that could be Mirage. Or it could be Mr. Fantastic. I just got to be on guard. Which brings me to another point. I think that this card coming out actually does nothing for Mirage. I think she's kind of garbage. But it's inherently a buff to Mr. Fantastic. All of a sudden, Mr. Fantastic might not be himself. People got to be thinking that might be a 5 power card. But really, you're just stretching your power out. You're just putting 2 on each side and you're having a good time about it. You're buffing it maybe after with like, I don't know, like Onslaught or like a Spectrum or something like that. And they're like, oh my gosh, it actually was him. How could I be so misguided? But definitely don't play Mr. Fantastic and Mirage in the same location or game, because people are gonna be like, okay, well, I mean, one of them's fake. I guess unless you want them to, I don't know. That wouldn't really make sense to me. Dude, this card just doesn't make sense. You know what's another thing that doesn't make sense? Can somebody please tell me in the comments below? Why Mr. Fantastic? You know, other than from like a Snap point of view, like a Marvel Snap point of view, where like it's deceiving to have the power either over here or down the middle. Like I get that. But like from a lore standpoint, why is Mirage, her entire character, being devoted and based around Mr. Fantastic, a Fantastic Four card? Like I just don't understand that at all. It feels like a bit of a waste of a character to me, if I'm being totally honest. It's a kind of a neat concept, but I don't know. I feel like maybe there should be like 3 cards that this cycles through, right? Like it could be like Namor or Mr. Fantastic or I don't know, Null, or it could rotate and it could just be a Mirage. It's an illusion of a random card. Like that could be neat, because at the end of the day, you are paying 4 for 5. That's not a nice stat line to have in Marvel Snap. Like normally you want pretty good value out of your 4 drop. Like Namor by himself, no effect, is a 4/6. Like that's better than Mirage, and you're just deceiving your opponent. Like, gosh, that just, I don't know. Maybe there's those times where like it's a Sanctum Sanctorum on the side and you make them think that you're like punching 2 power over there when really you don't got jack all. But then they're just gonna like find a way to put 3 power on there to make sure they win, and then maybe it's because of that you made them not. I don't know. I don't know, dude. I just feel like the deception is not worth it in this instance. And there's no like combinations really, like there is with Mysterio where you can actually buff those Lucians, right? With Bast or like stuff like that. You can find ways to make use of them, or like Carnage to destroy them. Like there's other ways to find value. Whereas this is like, nah, don't touch them because you wanted to turn to Mirage later and be 5 power. Like, am I missing something here? I just feel like this is so weak. I feel like this is so bad. I feel like this should have been a 3-5, right? Because then at least it's the same turn as Mr. Fantastic, right? Because if I play Mr. Fantastic on 4, I mean, come on. My opponent's looking at me like, yeah, okay, sure. This guy really just ruined his tempo and just left one unspent energy. And then you got Sunspot out there and he doesn't get the +1 on the unspent. Like, come on, man. That's too funny. Oh man, it just doesn't quite work. Like, it's gotta change. Am I right? Like, I don't know. And then the variants are fire though. And they got 3 variants. And they got a Peach Momoko variant, dude. Look how good this variant is. That is so fire. You cannot give this the ability to turn into the bottom left guy over there. Oh gosh, I have no idea. Okay, well, there you go. Those are the 4 cards. Let me know what you think about these Datamine cards in the comments below. It's always fun talking about these cards, seeing if they're going to come out soon or not. We have a big patch happening on the 18th. That's in about a week's time from now. And I'm hoping there's going to be some datamines in there. Some fresh, new datamines to talk about. And if there is, I'll cover them. So subscribe so you can stay tuned, and I'll catch you guys next time.